For this section, we're going to be dealing with adding and subtracting fractions. So we know with regular numbers that in order for us to add or subtract a fraction, we must have a common denominator, and we combine the top. For example, in A, I'm gonna leave the 9 because it's a common denominator, and I'm gonna combine the top as a 4 plus 2. So that simplifies to 6 over 9. And obviously simplify your fraction if you can. I'm going to call this 2 over 3. Same thing with letters. Looking at B, my common denominator is x plus 1. I'm going to combine the top, 3x plus 3. And we learned in the previous section that we could factor, we could simplify things. Looking on the top, I see that as 3x plus 1. My denominator is x plus 1. The x plus 1's cancel out, so my answer in this case is 3. Now, when we don't have a common denominator, we must get a common denominator. I know 12, I can write that as 3 times 4. I know 15, I can write that as 3 times 5. The common denominator is 3, which is my common factor, times 4 times 5. Now, on my first one, my first thing, my 1, it seems like in my first fraction, the factor that I'm missing is 5. So I'm going to have 1 times 5. My second fraction, it seems like the factor that I'm missing is 4. So I'm going to have 7 times 4. Now, when I look at this, on the top, I have 5 plus 28. You see that I did each multiplication. At the bottom, 3 times 4 times 5 happens to be 60. The top can be simplified. I'm going to call that 33 over 60, better known as 11 over 20. Same thing with B. It seems like my common my first fraction, my factors are 3 times y. My second fraction, my factors are 4 times y. My y is a common factor, so I'm only going to write it once. My greatest common factor will be 3 times 4 times y. Once again, the y, I only wrote it once because it repeats. Now, 3 times 4 times y, it seems like on my first fraction, I'm missing a 4. It seems like on my second fraction, I'm missing a 3. So I'm going to multiply 2 times 4 for the top plus 1 times 3. 2 times 4 plus 1 times 3, that is 8 plus 3 on the top. At the bottom, I have 12y. The 8 plus 3 on the top can be simplified, 11 over 12y. Looking at this example, let me take a look at the factors of my first fraction. X squared minus 1, I know I can see that as x minus 1, x plus 1. All right, so my greatest common factor is going to be x minus 1 and x plus 1. So that's going to be my least common divisor. Now, on the first fraction, it seems like I'm not missing anything. So I'm just going to copy the 2x. I'm not missing anything. For the second fraction, from the two parentheses that I need at the bottom, it seems like I'm missing the x minus 1. So I'm going to multiply my negative 1 times x minus 1. Once again, at the bottom, I have x minus 1, x plus 1. I'm not doing anything to the bottom. Now, on the top, let me get rid of parentheses. So I have 2x, that has nothing to do with parentheses. Let me distribute the negative 1. So minus x plus 1. Simplify what you can. So on the top, I have x plus 1 over, at the bottom, I have x minus 1, x plus 1. My x plus 1's cancel out. So I have nothing on the top, so nothings are usually represented with a 1. So I have 1 over x minus 1. I leave the denominator in factor form, so parentheses, just in case any factors are going to cancel out. Looking at example 4, my first fraction, my denominator, when I factor the denominator, I have x plus 3, x plus 2. When I factor the denominator of my second fraction, I have x plus 3, x minus 1. I see that there is a common factor. So, okay, so that's good. Now, my least common denominator will be x plus 3, x plus 2, and x minus 1. These three factors. Now, from these three factors, on my first fraction, it seems like I'm missing x minus 1. From these three factors on my denominator, on my second fraction, it seems like I'm missing x plus 2. All right, so let me multiply the top. I'm going to have 2x times x minus 1 plus, on the top I have x plus 1 times x plus 2. Okay. Let me get rid of parentheses here. I have 2x squared minus 2x. Let me get rid of parentheses here. I'm going to distribute the x first, the x from the first parentheses. So I have x squared plus 2x. Now I'm going to distribute the 1 from the first parentheses to the second parentheses. So I have plus x plus 2. At the bottom, I'm not going to combine anything. I just have x plus 3, x plus 2, x minus 1. Right? I'm not going to combine anything. Now, the top, it looks too full. There's too many things. Let me combine my like terms. 2x squared plus 1x squared. That gives me 3x squared. Negative 2x plus 2x plus 1x. That gives me 1x. And then I have plus 2. Factor it if you can. Now, this one, we remember we have to split the middle term. I'm thinking of two numbers that multiplied equals 6. But when I add them, is equal to 1. We can't. All right, so we cannot factor anything. There's nothing we can cancel out. So that's pretty much my answer. 3x squared plus x plus 2 over x plus 3, x plus 2, x minus 1. Right? Simplify if you can, but if we cannot, then we cannot. Now here, looking at the denominators, y minus 2 and 2 minus y, let me rewrite this as y over y minus 2, right? I'm not going to do anything to the first one, plus 8 over negative 1 y minus 2. We talked last time that the 2 minus y, if we factor the negative 1 out, it becomes y minus 2. All right, so now here, my least common denominator will be negative 1 and y minus 2. From these two factors, on my first parentheses, I'm missing the negative 1. On my second fraction, I'm not missing anything. So I have to do y times a negative 1 plus 8. Let me simplify that as negative y plus 8 over negative 1 y minus 2. If we can simplify, then simplify, but in this case we cannot. So that's pretty much it. Now we're going to be dealing with subtraction. Here we have the common denominator, m minus 1. So I'm just going to do my first fraction, 2m. Now when I subtract the second one, I'm going to write minus m minus 3. The thing is that the negative sign distributed. So that's how I got negative m,